Good morning. I have to also peek behind me a little bit every once in a while, but I'm happy to see that there are quite a lot of you in the room today. So hello. As you heard, my name is Helin Haga. I come from Estonia and I work in a science center, which is actually called AHHAA. So I know the name always causes a little bit of confusion, but it's actually quite simple. So today I'm going to speak to you about some of the food education examples that I have come into contact with. And as Karen said that she was wearing two hats today, so am I. So I have two very distinct identities that have a lot to do with food and food education. But you will know more about them in a second. So as requested, here's also my conflict of interest slide. I have no conflicts to declare. And here's my little agenda for my presentation, so you know what to expect. So firstly, I'm going to speak to you about my involvement in the Fit for Food 2030 project. And then I will move on to what I do in food sharing Tartu, and then it will be time for you to ask me any questions that you might have. So firstly, as I said, I have very distinct two identities that have to do with food education. And first of all, the most important, I guess, is my involvement in the Science Center AHHAA as a project coordinator of many different projects involving the Fit for Food project, which ran between 2017 and 2020. And AHHAA, as one of the city lab coordinators, was responsible for organizing different activities in the city lab and also creating hands-on activities that had to do with food education for educators, but I should say that they are probably available and accessible for everyone who is interested in food. So they don't necessarily have to be educators at all. And secondly, in Tartu, we have a trouble calling it organization because we don't have a legal body. So it's more like a group of people who have formed Food Sharing Tartu, which is part of a bigger movement, an international food sharing movement. And in this organization, we are all volunteers. And we do all that we do on top of our daily jobs and our families and our other interests. And we collect food from different retailers, also producers, cafes, restaurants, so on and so forth. And we redistribute it to people who are interested in eating this food. We do it in a number of ways. One of them is the community pantries. But our aim in doing so is not only to make sure that food meant for people is eaten by people, but it's also to educate people on how much food waste we actually have around us and help them to maybe come up with ways to reduce the food waste in their own homes. But now, stepping back to the Fit for Food project, so this was a Horizon 2020 project, a very classical European Commission project, run for 4 years, or coordinated by a partner from the Netherlands. And the aim was to tackle food sustainability and the security of the food system from different angles. So there were 7 city labs, Tartu being one of them. There was a European think tank, and there were also policy labs. And the aim of all of those was to try to come up with guidelines for different stakeholders on how to reduce food waste, how to introduce food systems in the classroom, and also how to take a personal responsibility for reducing food waste in Europe. And there were 19 partners altogether, in this project. AHHAA was a third party through EXCITE, the European Network of Science Centers and Science Museums. So our stake in the project was quite small compared to some of the other partners, but we focused mainly on very hands-on, very one-on-one activities. So the events that we did were both closed and open for public. So closed in the sense that we had to find people, different stakeholders for the city lab, different experts and non-experts, and to meet with them to get input about the already existing food-related activities that AHHAA had developed. So that means that we already had some workshops available for school groups and for the general public. And we also had science theater shows that we did. So we presented what we already had, gathered the input, and then made our conclusions from that. So one of those activities, one of those events was the Food Day in 2018. So we had the stakeholders come to AHHAA together with their children, because the activities were meant for students mainly, to test out some of the activities that we already had. For instance, the chocolate making workshop, and see whether we could translate into the project of Fit for Food, or maybe we would have to scratch it all together, which we actually ended up doing. And at the end of the project, we had a very open event called the Future of Food Conference. This was meant for all the general public. It was for free, and it took place in AHHAA. It was one of the last public events before the second lockdown in 2020 in September. So we didn't have many people on the spot, but we had over 100 participating online, so it was quite good. And in this conference, we spoke about different aspects having to do with the food system. For instance, whether in the near future we will all be eating bugs for protein, or whether it is actually even possible to do agriculture without waste, and what the numbers showed. So these events showed us quite a lot about the attitude that people of Estonia have towards food waste, also the types of prejudices having to do with reducing waste. But in order to carry on the legacy of the project, we also had to do something that was more tangible than just events. So we did develop 3 hands-on workshops. These are also available online, if I'm not mistaken, on the site in a bigger report. But later on, I will share my contact details, so you can ask me to send you over the PDFs just as they are too. So the legacy is basically the 3 workshops. So these were on 3 topics. So first was the beeswax food wrap on food packaging. So you can make your own food wraps using cloth and beeswax. Then the taste alternative protein workshop is a seitan patty making workshop. So you can make your own meatless patty if you wish. And the food and vacuum is something that we actually revamped from an already existing workshop that we had in AHHAA. So in a small vacuum chamber, we showed what happens to certain types of food. And then we drew a parallel to dry freezing technologies. But a little side note is that actually, due to everything that we did in this project, AHHAA ended up paying more attention to what we do in our staff events, and also at events that are booked in our premises. So what we do with the food that is left over, how we even order food to make sure that not much is left over. And when we now move on to my second half of my presentation, we actually can see that we very neatly can combine these two because everything that's left over from our events is now taken to the community pantries that are located all over Tartu. So here you can see the activity sheet, an example of the three. There's a certain logic to how to do things, and then there's quite a lot of room for interpretation as well. These workshops should be able to be done in 45 minutes, so that's the standard length of a lesson in Estonia, in primary school through to high school. So this is one of those one of the examples of how it looks, what it looks like. But there are also, of course, other instructions and grocery lists and so on. All right. So now, if we move on to my second hat, my second identity, then we need to speak about food sharing Tartu. So on this photo, you see the back of one of my teammates, or if you see saving food more of a guerrilla-like activity than one of my co-conspirators. This features our logo, which is "Food is not waste." And what we do in food sharing Tartu is quite simple. We contact organizations, companies, businesses that have to do with food, that have to do something to do with selling food products, food dishes, and we try to collect as much as the leftover food that they have, and then redistribute it to people who want to consume it. And we have set up 4 community pantries all over Tartu. We want to set up a few more, but since we are only 30 volunteers and we need to maintain them and fix them and clean them ourselves, then we are a little bit strapped in that sense at the moment. So we are quite happy with the 4 that we do have. We have over 10 partners. These are the companies that I talked to you about. And we try to also encourage them to look at the way they do their business, in the sense that maybe they can change something in the process of, like, let's say, ordering ingredients to make sure that less is left over. And if we cannot go and collect what they have left over, we do encourage them to take everything to the community pantries themselves. But on top of the pantries, we also organize open, honest distribution events. So basically people gather together who wish to eat the food that we have for them, and then we give something to everyone on the spot. And this happens usually when you have a larger patches of food that need to be consumed ASAP. And the numbers say a lot. So as of the 1st of January this year, we have saved approximately 62,000 kilograms of food. So that's this year alone. And that doesn't include everything, because the numbers are not exact. We don't weigh everything by the gram. So it's probably more. And the year is not over yet. And we are a tiny, tiny organization. And well, when we do collect the food and then give it on to other people, we also go to events to educate students, to educate adults. We go talk to the city government officials. Every once in a while, we go to school events, school conferences, bigger conferences, international ones also taking place all over Estonia. And we also consult other little groups of people and authorities in other parts of the country who wish to do something similar in their neighborhoods. And there have been quite a few little groups formed in different parts of the country too, so that actually the community pantries can be found elsewhere as well. But these are mostly just single pantries in one little region. They are not organized as to the extent that the food sharing Tartu ones are. So here you can see just a few examples of our activities. And can you guess the reason why these bananas were thrown away? They are single bananas, they're not together with others. So bunches of bananas are sold nicely, but some people don't want 4, they want 3, so they take one off the bunch. So the single ones are left in the shop and people don't want them. Although if you want to buy 5 bananas, you might just as well collect the 5 single ones and buy them, but no. So that's one of the most ridiculous reasons for wasting food, but there are very many of those, and I can speak at length and with passion about these things. But I don't think we have like 5 hours today to do that. So let's move on. So that brings me to my conclusion. So these are the 2 things that I have done during the past few years. These are things that we are very passionate about in Tartu. And if you have any questions, I would be very happy to answer them. And of course, you can get in contact with me using my Gmail account, because I'm currently on maternity leave actually, and I'm not using my official AHHAA emails and contacts that much. But of course, you can check out what AHHAA is doing also on AHHAA's website. So thank you very much.